Okay, so hello and welcome back to another video. There's been a bit of a gap between the last video and this one, and to be honest, there's no real reason. That's just what lockdown seems to do to everyone. Very hard to think of ideas when we're stuck in the house, pretty hard to motivate to actually do some work, so here we are. So this week I really wanted to do something completely different. As I mentioned, I've been a little bit stuck for ideas and I wasn't too sure, what worthwhile film stuff might be worth talking about during this period, so we're going to go completely off topic and we're going to talk about something not to do with film at all. Well, at least not to do with making films. So during this extended period of downtime, we've all had a lot of extra time, so we've had a lot of time to, whatever it is, catch up on TV shows, watch films, play games we haven't played for ages, stuff like that. And I find it really interesting to work out and to know what people are actually doing with their time. Now, you get a lot of people who are learning new languages, they're playing instruments, they're doing all this really productive stuff. And to be perfectly honest, if you're doing that and it works for you, fantastic. But we're not all doing that. Not all of us want to do that. Not all of us have the kind of mental brain power at the moment to do that. A lot of us are just cracking on with some of the things that we've missed when we're too busy in the normal world. And that's fine. So let's talk about what I've been doing day to day. Now, until very recently, when I've started doing some delivery driving work, I, like most of you, was doing very little. I've been really fortunate in that my family have been great at, finding things to do within the house, in the garden. We've built new sheds, we've taken down fences, all this kind of stuff, which honestly has been really, really helpful and is, feels very productive when you're doing it. And besides that, I really wanted to watch some things that I've, put off or that I've just not gotten around to during normal circumstances. So firstly, as you can probably tell by my background at the moment, I have been utterly obsessed yet again with Star Wars. Star Wars was something that I grew up on. It was, the go-to franchise when I was a kid. I went to the cinema, saw all the prequels at the time, for better or worse, and I've really been pretty obsessed ever since. It's one of those things that kind of flits in and out of my consciousness. There's times when I'm not kind of thinking about it too much, and then there's times when I'm all in, massive Star Wars fan. And this is definitely one of those times. So what is I've been doing? I have, with my family, watched all of the Star Wars films from the original trilogy through to the sequels and the prequels and the Solo movie and Rogue One, which, by the way, I think might be my favorite Star Wars film, because controversial that is. I've been playing a lot of Battlefront 2, which is now a good game. It was very hard to recommend when it first came out, but after a lot of updates, a lot of changes over the years, and a lot of fresh content, it really is now a fun game, a fun arcade game just to play for an hour or two at a time. And then I finally got round, with the help of Disney Plus, to watching the Star Wars animated shows. So I have watched from beginning to end Star Wars The Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels. Now, these are shows that I wasn't too sure whether or not I'd really enjoy. I don't watch a hell of a lot of animated stuff, and I'd always heard that they were sort of, targeted more towards kids, so I was a little bit kind of cautious getting into them. But I have to say, if you enjoy Star Wars, for the most part, you will love both of these shows. Now, for me personally, I think Clone Wars is a little bit long, like a lot of TV shows, especially in America, especially on kids networks. They are all 22 episodes per season. This means there is filler episodes, there is definitely arcs and storylines that don't really matter and that you don't really need. But the best of the Clone Wars is some of the best Star Wars content that I have seen, as hyperbolic as that might sound. Now, especially getting more up to date with the new season that just come out on Disney Plus recently, some of those episodes, especially the finale, the final 4-part thing, really is top tier Star Wars content, which I recommend anyone to watch, even if you haven't watched the rest of the Clone Wars. Now, if we're getting super nerdy, there is stuff on Reddit that I've seen where it kind of, makes a list of the episodes that you need to watch and excludes some of the ones you don't need to watch. So, that can be found if you don't really want to sit through the entire thing. But overall, really, really good. Adds a lot of context to the prequels, which, let's be honest, lacked a lot of context at the time. A lot of background to characters, and kind of explains away some of the rash decisions and weak storytelling of those films. And then once I'd finished that, I moved on to Star Wars Rebels, which I didn't really know anything about. This show takes place during the original trilogy, or at least just before it. And again, it's just really, really good background information. You're getting a lot of kind of really cool stuff that's showing you where the galaxy is at that time and all that kind of, super nerdy stuff. But again, really good characters, some fantastic arcs, and there's only 4 seasons of that, so it's a lot more manageable in the grand scheme of things. Both of those shows have some moments that are definitely not for kids, so that kind of blew the for kids thing out of the water for me. Clone Wars gets really dark sometimes when it's looking at the clone troopers especially, and how kind of their brainwashing all occurs and them kind of fighting with their own consciousness of being real people and stuff, concepts that are not for kids. And Rebels is all about, planets being militarized and taken over and all that kind of stuff, and also has some pretty serious moments that I definitely didn't see coming and really took me by surprise, so that was good fun as well. Both shows have crossovers from main characters as well, which is always great and always gets a good pop from a Star Wars fan. If you see Darth Vader in anything, it's cool, so let's be honest. And then besides Star Wars, we've kind of gone through a few of the really big kind of franchise films. So we watched all of the Indiana Jones films, which were on TV, and we've also watched the Lord of the Rings trilogy, extended editions, of course, the only way to watch them, and I just love those films. Those films are really what got me into filmmaking as a child, as cliche as it sounds. I used to go and watch all the, behind the scenes documentaries because there was hours and hours of them on the extended DVDs. And, the scale of that, the production value, everything that went into making those films, realistically the classics that they are, was 100% what got me into filmmaking. So there's always a special place in my heart for that trilogy as well. Yes, there is 12 plus hours of that trilogy if you watch the extended version, so they're not the most accessible, but my mum and dad watched them and they both love them as well, so it's not like you have to be super nerdy like me to actually enjoy those films. We're really hitting the trifecta of, mainstream franchise films, so we're planning to watch the Harry Potter ones again soon. Again, something that I grew up on, a really big part of my childhood, Harry Potter, so I'm really keen to watch them again. I've not seen some of the early ones in years, and the films are just kind of golden. I'm a little bit conscious of the very child-friendly first couple, but once you get past that, really, really into some classic films again. And then besides big franchise films, I've started watching Normal People on BBC Three or on iPlayer, which everyone's going on about, and that is adult, but really, really good. So I'm enjoying that as well. I'm going to crack through that and then try and maybe watch some films that aren't major movie franchise players. There's plenty of classics that I haven't seen. There's plenty of smaller films from the last couple of years which I've missed out on. So I definitely want to sort of catch up on some of them as well. So I know this episode was very Star Wars heavy and a bit of a rant, to be honest, but I just wanted to kind of mix it up, fill everyone in on the kind of things I've been watching and catching up on during this, lockdown period. And if this is the kind of video that people have enjoyed, if you want to know anything more about me personally, then, I like to do this. I find it much easier to talk in this capacity. So, leave a comment. Let me know if it's kind of something you enjoy and I can make more of these. So thanks for sitting down with me today, and I will see you, I won't say next week because it might not be, but in the near future. See you later.